I call the Planning Commission meeting for May 26, 2022 to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, we call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Here.
Mr. Crocker,
Excused.
Mr. Haddon,
Excused.
Mr. Perkovich.
Here.
Ms. Small. Here. Mr. Tiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, May 25th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small. Yes. Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Before we get started, Ms. Mitchell, I understand we have a special guest here today. Will you say a little thing?
We do. I just wanted to acknowledge and present, we have Siobhan Bronken. She's in the audience. She's a Manor High School senior, and she did her senior project with us over the last 2 weeks. She's been shadowing the Planning and Development Department, taking a little bit of a glance at code enforcement, economic development, and planning and zoning. And so this is her wrap up to her 20 required hours. So I told her we'd make it a good meeting for her. So just want to say welcome and thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On tonight's agenda, we have 6 public hearings, and we will follow this format. First, the applicant will have the opportunity to explain what they would like to do at a particular location. Second, anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal will be given that opportunity. Finally, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be afforded the time to do so, or some people may just have questions, and we will try to get those answers. And with that, we have a conditional use permit to allow a radio antenna on Garfield Road. Is that applicant here? Yes. Please come up, give us your name and address, and tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Thank you for this opportunity to address this board. I'm Dale Edwards. I'm the manager for Radio Advantage One. We're a nonprofit broadcasting entity. Currently we broadcast out of Painesville, Ohio on the frequency of 1460. And we're proposing to put that 50-foot antenna on the Garfield Road property site, which is approximately 2.5 acres there. And the antenna is going to be approximately 50 feet. It's going to be monopole fiberglass antenna. It would be within the setbacks of that particular property. The fall areas will be on that property. We believe that we will be a good community partner for Manor. We broadcast religious, sports, and talk format programs. And we look forward to really working with this community and being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just hang out one second. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, we just have 5 conditions noted on the staff report.
And you've read the staff report and the conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything from the commission members?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Varga?
I saw in the notes that you were planning in the future to build an actual office or studio there,
Yes, sir.
but this is not, there's no suggestion here. So just for your information, we're not approving anything that would allow you to do that. You'd have to come back and
Yes,
present
sir.
that to us later. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We have a conditional use permit to allow an adult daycare center at 8800 Tyler Boulevard. Is that applicant here? Please come up and give us your name and address and tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Good evening. My name is Patty Verzante, and I own a small agency who serves individuals with developmental disabilities. I currently provide residential and transportation services for those individuals, and I would like to use this property to offer a day program for those same individuals. My plan is to keep it small, no more than 10 people who will, they'll learn socialization skills, maybe some cooking, food prep, making lunches mostly. You know, games, puzzles, movies, a lot of outings, you know, going to parks and whatnot, helping the folks that I serve, you know, live their best life, a meaningful day for them. So I plan to keep it small, no more than about 10 people.
Thank you. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone? Oh, give us your name and address, please.
My name's Fred Longmans, 7449 Lauren J. Drive. Patty, I just want to say Patty's been, worked for the Deepwood for 30 plus years. And she's been currently in business for about 4 to 5 years and has been very successful providing services for people that have the developmental disabilities. That's all.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
No, Mr. Chairman, we just have three conditions recommended for the commission.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
we used to have a planning commissioner who always used to ask that with this kind of a project, we have a defibrillator located in the facility. You know, kind of thing I'm talking about?
AED device.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to make that a condition that you also include one of those
As an addition?
as an additional condition.
Okay. All the staff and employees are trained in CPR, AED.
Then it
and
would be
first-
good to have one.
Yep, it would be.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 4 conditions, the fourth one being the inclusion of the, what is it?
AED.
AED device.
Yeah.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a conditional use permit to allow an animal kennel at 8586 East Avenue. Is that applicant here? Please give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
My name's Danielle Prostak, and this is Vicky Prostak. We're at 2110 Kingsborough Drive right now. We're looking to have a dog training, grooming, and a little bit of daycare at 8586 East Ave. We're going to have it on the smaller side. We really want it to be structured and really one-on-one. So I'm trying to see if we can get a small turf area at the back of the building. We're going to have a drop-off time at specific times just to kind of prevent any foot traffic. We do plan on taking some dogs out on leash. And again, we're going to kind of keep it really small. We're going to have probably 20 to 25 dogs through the building total, which does include like grooming, so they don't really go through the rest of the building. And then that's really it. It's just a structured center for pets. That's what we want.
Thank you. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this proposal?
I would like to, sir.
Yeah.
My name's T.R. Hack, 9909 Knollwood Ridge in Concord. I'm the landlord, and I've been impressed. They have a nice website, Facebook page. They have a business plan, which I don't see very often. My understanding is they have a very good reputation, and I'm obviously in favor of it.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant had given us the updated drawing that you're seeing in front on the screen with regard to an outdoor area in the back. That was one of the concerns that the administration had raised. I guess I just would ask if the applicant or the property owner could speak to that area, and is that adequate to accommodate? Because we're concerned that just using the front would not be appropriate because it can't be fenced in.
You want to speak on that a little bit?
The back part,
The back.
it was the 10 by 20.
So I think the plan was to, because the dogs are there on a relatively limited time frame, was that would be suitable to get them out. It's primarily a training and grooming. It's not an exercise.
Right. I mean, we're not completely daycare. And we do plan on using a turf system there, so it's kind of a box. You could put turf on it, so kind of for sanitation reasons, not just going everywhere. But yes.
All right, thank you. Anything from the commission members?
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Varga?
The addition of that outside area, I understand how you're going to use it, but it seems, and this is really a question to you, Kathy. It looks like it really squeezes down the driveway between the corner of that and the last parking space there, to the extent that we have a nice double width driveway going in, and then it goes down to what looks like half that width, and then wide again. Is there any concern about that? I mean, my first thought is there may be some concern because it.
Sir, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Actually, that side of the parking lot is, there's no marked parking spaces. It really is primarily used as a drive. The east side of the building is marked for parking spaces. So quite honestly, then the other side, the east side is, that's where all the retail doors, if you will. The back side is the overhead doors for deliveries and things like that. And
Right.
that diagram is probably not 100% correct in that there are no parking spaces marked on that side, and it really doesn't get used.
But you may need them per code to have those spaces. Whether you use them or not is a different issue. I don't. I just made that observation that you have a 2-lane drive, you have a squeeze point, then you have a 2-lane drive, or a larger, and that's also where trucks and deliveries would be made too, right?
I can speak to the tenants that are there now. It really don't get, that backside of the building really does not get utilized. I mean,
No, I
it's,
understand.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not.
get it, yeah.
I just make the observation.
Sure. Fair enough.
What, maybe you could. Maybe you could cut the corner on that enclosed area to a 45 to just keep it from being such a tight squeeze.
Or you could crosshatch that one parking space
And not use it.
and not use it.
And not use it.
And then there'll be
Well,
more
he's saying
room.
that they're probably not even marked, so it wouldn't be
It looks tight on the diagram.
Yeah, it
But
does,
in
that's why.
person, yeah, but in person it is a little wider.
Well,
But I understand what you mean.
Diagrams have a way
Yeah.
of telling us where the sins are, too. Well, okay, let's, I mean, I'd still maybe chamfer that yard at just so that somebody's not hitting that pole all the time. And we could check with maybe, if and you're saying the spaces aren't even marked right now.
on the west side of the building, they are not.
Okay, so then maybe it's really not a day-to-day problem.
He's showing you what at least, you can see where it's not marked there.
Yeah, okay. Now, next one over. Is it next one? No, it's this one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that is the west side.
Oh, that's the others. Okay,
You can see our new roof.
yeah. Well, I can see, yeah, there's nothing really marked there, though the space is there. I'll leave it, do you think we have a concern? If not, I'll just kind of withdraw my concern. But I mean, it just looked like a squeeze point, but the spaces aren't marked and they don't really use them. I tell you what, let's back it up and let's. Fire marshal didn't say anything. He didn't see a problem.
No, there wasn't any specific concern with that drive out.
My last and bedrock concern is if the fire marshal sees that there's not a problem, then it's probably not a problem. Okay, so I'll withdraw my concern.
Anything else from the commission members?
I do have a question, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Smalls?
Do you intend on having overnight boarding at this location? It says so in the application, but you didn't mention it.
Yes, there's a few because I do training, so it's just board and trains. So they'll stay Monday through Friday. We want someone there with them.
And how do you anticipate, and you're talking about leash walks, how do you anticipate doing that? I'm a little worried because there's no sidewalks on East Avenue, and it's pretty heavily truck-driven.
I do plan on using the grass in the front a little bit, but we do have a training room in the building that we're going to use for the most part. And then the other thing is we really just take dogs on field trips. So that's part of my training is we just go on field trips. So it's just going to the store, to the park, those kind of things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? I think the major concern was the not having the outdoor space.
Right.
And if you feel like it's adequate and you've addressed that, then I think that solves my concern, so. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Chairman, I would just recommend adding the condition, though, that that outdoor space would be added as shown on the staff exhibit.
Okay.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 4 conditions. The 4th condition being the requirement that the outdoor space be built as shown.
Jack, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich,
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We have a conditional use permit to allow vehicle sales, servicing, and leasing at 8505 Manor Avenue. Is that applicant here? Please come up, tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Good evening. My name is Denver Brooker, principal with Vocon, 3142 Prospect Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44115. Vocon is the local architect for this proposed project. Representing the Ken Ganley Automotive Group and the purchaser of the property, KG Real Estate Mentor LLC, the applicant. Our proposal is very simple. This property is operated as a car dealership since 1985, and our proposed redevelopment of the site is to continue that use with a new Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep dealership. We'll utilize parts of the existing building, demolish parts of the existing building, and expand it significantly. We will redevelop the site and refurbish it, expand the landscape buffers to the north, east, and west, and redo the landscaping at the front of the building.
Okay. So we're just going to go through the conditional use permit now. We'll go through the site plan later. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? With that, this public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
We have 5 conditions noted for the conditional use permit.
Anything from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. All right, we'll see you in a little bit.
All right, thank you.
We have a conditional use permit to allow a drive-through ATM at 9571 Manor Avenue. Is that applicant here? Please give us your name and address and tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Hello, my name is Angelo Bart. I'm a civil engineer with Wolpert. We're located at 1203 Walnut Street in Cincinnati, Ohio. This project is a redevelopment of an existing commercial building. The bank would like to add a drive-through lane, drive-through ATM on the west side of the building.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration on the conditional use permit?
No, nothing, other than the 1 condition noted.
Thank you. Anything from the fellow commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 1 condition.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich,
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. All right, we'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you.
We have a conditional use permit to allow a car wash, Take 5, at 9047 Manor Avenue and 7139 Hopkins Road. Is that applicant here? Please give us your name and address and tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Good evening. My name is Randy Randolph. I am here on behalf of the applicant for 9047 Manor Avenue and 7139 Hopkins Road. We would like to construct a express car wash facility on these two parcels. We plan on demolishing the two existing buildings that are on site. I'm sure you've seen quite a few of these around town and kind of all over Cleveland and the suburbs, but it's sort of your typical express car wash where you pay anywhere between $6 and $20 to go through a tunnel, have your cars cleaned, washed and dried, and then you have access to vacuums outside of the tunnel. So that's kind of a little bit about what we were hoping to do here.
Thank you. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Oh, I'm sorry. In favor.
My name's Dave Petrentone, address 9047 Manor Avenue. I just think that this is a big improvement for what's existing there now. I think it's a perfect spot for this facility, and I think it'll work out perfect there for the city.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in favor? Yep.
Lawrence Lennon, 7139 Hopkins Road, Lennon Realty. Mr. Randolph is representing the company that's putting in the car washes, and they're in 46 different states. They always comply with the zoning. They landscape well. The only situation here is Manor has changed over the years. In 1961, when my father moved to Manor, Manor was 1,200 people. We also had a police station right next to the cemetery down there, and there was no problems with ingress, egress, traffic, or anything, but population has subsequently grown. The school was there a long time before. I believe that if they were to reconsider the location for that school, they would move it in today's situation. There's 2 times a day when there's traffic there. Buses come in the morning, and buses pick up children in the afternoon. A school bus is the length of 2 cars. The school buses coming in the afternoon back up traffic all the way to Route 20. They have to hire a police officer to stand there, hold the cars back, direct the people in, etc. Well, once again, times have changed. There is a remedy for this. The school has a large football field to the west, and they also have Garfield Elementary to the north. There's ingress and egress from both of those areas. The school would be better served, safety-wise, time-wise, if they changed the direction of ingress and egress. Now, we're being asked as property owners who are following zoning to, change or at least hold back, and I don't understand exactly how we're going to do that, because no matter what business goes in there, it's going to have ingress and egress. We're being prohibited. Now, years ago, when we had Maximilians, when we had Hobnobbers, I can't remember the other one, it used to be Mean Mug, we had people backed up so far, they were using the school, the clinic across the street. I mean, there was no parking whatsoever. Times changed. Well, it backed off. The restaurants have left, so we don't have all of that extra traffic from the restaurants. I question how much traffic we're going to have from this car wash, because it's only used at certain times of the day. In the morning, there's an insignificant number of cars coming and going. The worst time would be when school lets out in the afternoon. And again, there's a police officer there directing. I don't believe that there would be that much difficulty. certainly on Route 20, on many of the businesses, you can't turn left. I mean, it's a horrendous strike. Here, you don't have that problem. But again, we had a proposal some time ago, and the school system objected because of the traffic flow. Well, if we're in line with the zoning, maybe we should consider working with the school system and redirecting some of their traffic. They are the ones that are bringing the worst amount of traffic and blocking the intersection on 20. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for listening. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody wishing to speak against this proposal? Well, I got a list here. We'll start here. I might butcher the last name, but David Petronone? You come up and,
He was for. Oh, he's in.
oh, you're a 4. Sorry about that. Jose Butos? I got it. Just state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name's Jose Bustos. I'm actually the neighbor right where they're gonna build the car wash, and they claim that there's no traffic. There's only traffic during school, but I think that's
Have an address.
that's absurd because
Have an address.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. I've talked.
I think that's absurd because I live there and I'm in my home. There's traffic constantly all day long. Even just coming here to get out of my house, it takes me a couple minutes just to drive back, just to get out the driveway. My wife struggles especially during the day, to go to work. She works second shift. I just think it'll be a major problem for everyone. Yeah, I understand that there's other businesses that might go there even if this car wash doesn't approves. But I think a car wash is a lot more busier than any other business that will actually go there, because car wash constantly people come and go. I just think that's a danger for everyone around, especially the school. I don't think the school should change what they're doing just because that car wash is going in that place. I think the school is just more important than that car wash actually going there, because I don't know, I feel like it's just too much traffic already, too much accidents to go through there. Just because Manor Avenue, regardless, it's a very, very busy street. That's all I gotta say. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Estat?
Thank you for the opportunity to address the council or the commission. My name is Dr. Gary Estat. My address is 7330 Players Club Drive. I'm representing GJE Holdings. We own the chiropractic office that's presently on the corner. And I have some written information to submit for the council, or for the commission. So I moved 38 years ago to Manor, and we opened a chiropractic office on the west side of the city, which is where, on the corner of Midlands and Manor Avenue, which is now where we have Mark's. And at that time, Manor Avenue was a 2-lane road, and traffic would back up from October until January, all the way to downtown Willoughby trying to get to the mall. So I moved to the east side of Manor, where it was a little quieter once you passed 615. There wasn't a lot of retail development yet, Hopkins Road and east. Found this building in 1991. Interestingly enough, Mr. Lennon owned it before the next tenant had it, and then I purchased it from the next tenant. At that time, Manor Avenue was 4 lanes, but the turning lanes were restricted. There was no turning lane on Manor Avenue. City came in and took some of my property by eminent domain to widen Manor Avenue, put a turning lane in at Hopkins Road. The proposed car wash, 75% of the vehicles coming into that car wash are going to be entering off of Hopkins Road. That's the cars that are coming southbound on Hopkins, the cars that are coming northbound on Hopkins, and the cars that are going eastbound on Manor Avenue are all going to have to turn onto Hopkins, which means the backup is going to be on Hopkins Road. The only cars entering on Manor Avenue are the ones that are westbound. And I believe that it's actually going to be more than 75% exiting, because those cars that come in from Mentor Avenue, if they get their car washed and go to the vacuum bays, are now on the northwest part of that property, which is where the exit is for Hopkins Road, which is going to make even more traffic there. Now, I can tell you from my practice that my wife and I have run for, like I said, 38 years, that property there, even on our property, you can't get out onto Manor Avenue to turn westbound. Most of my patients try to exit on Hopkins because the traffic is so bad on Manor Avenue. In fact, I also submitted a recent study that just came out that shows that, where is it? It was the Ohio Traffic Commission, and I believe it shows that the corridor from on Manor Avenue from Hopkins Road to Old Johnny Cake is the most dangerous corridor in Northeast Ohio, #1. So to say there's not going to be a traffic concern is ludicrous. It's going to be a traffic nightmare. My big concern is the entrance onto Hopkins, which is also directly next to my practice. My patients have a hard enough time getting out of there without a high volume business being next to me. So you're going to have traffic jam southbound on Hopkins. I don't know if you've been on Hopkins, but traffic backs all the way to Jackson Street. You're going to have it northbound coming onto Hopkins, and that property can only accommodate 18 cars. So all the spillover is going to spill over onto Hopkins Road, both north and southbound. So I'm concerned about the traffic safety. So has a traffic study been submitted to this board as it was noted in the preliminary findings that from your status report? I haven't seen a traffic study on anything. I would like to see that. This proposal does nothing to improve traffic safety in that Manor Avenue Hopkins corridor. It takes a horrible situation and it makes it more horrible. I'm also concerned about student safety. So Memorial Middle School and Garfield are both walking schools. So the students walk northbound, students walk southbound to get to school. And when they come to school, they have to come down all the way down to the intersection at Manor Avenue, cross at Manor Avenue, and then back up to either Garfield or Memorial Junior High. And they'll be crossing a busy commercial business, and it's well removed from where the crossing guard is at the corner of Manor Avenue. I know because the crossing guard parks in my office, which is an agreement I came to with the city back in the 1990s when Chief Amiot was chief of police over safety concerns because of traffic problems that have been occurring for over 30 years there. There's a lot of difficulty with traffic coming in and out, school buses entering and exit Memorial. It backs up traffic onto Manor Avenue. It backs up traffic on Hopkins in both directions. And that entrance where Take 5 is going to be is directly across from the entrance and the exit of Memorial. So, and at that level, there is no turning lane. The turning lane doesn't begin until you get to my office. That's a double-lined road, 2 lanes only, where that turning in and turning out is going to occur. So they're going to have to cross double lines, or you're going to have to widen the road to increase the length of the turning lane. And my question is, who's going to pay for that? Is the tenant who's going in going to pay for that? Is the city going to pay for that? Is my taxes going to pay for that? I had a conversation with the Transportation Department Director of Manor Schools, Jen Skalski, and for the record, I'd like to read her email to me and I can submit it to the committee. Dear Gary, hi Gary, thanks for sharing this information.
Dr. Estad, I'm sorry,
Yes.
right here. She would have to come to the public
Okay,
hearing. Yeah, I'm
okay,
sorry about
okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned about some of the proposed solutions on the conditions for the conditional use permit. I think they're inadequate. A proposal for an A-frame temporarily closed sign with letters 7 inches high and 2 to 3 orange cones across that intersection like you presently do at Zappy's. It doesn't work at Zappy's, and Zappy's has the advantage of being on Manor Avenue where there's 2 lanes. So traffic that wants to get by can go into another lane and get by. We don't have that opportunity in Hopkins Road. Once it's closed, traffic is going to back up. The other problem is when they put those signs out, who's supposed to see it? You're not going to be able to see it if you're on the turning lane from Manor Avenue. You're not going to be able to see it if you're coming down Manor Avenue from the other direction. You're not going to be able to see it if you're down by CVS, a sign that's facing toward the school. And you're not going to see it if you're backed up in traffic on Hopkins Road coming down. So what's it going to stop? And the proposed solutions of having somebody out there in a vest and chasing people away, and if people aren't complying, calling the Manor Police Department to come out, that's not an adequate solution. It hasn't worked for Zappies, and like I said, Zappies has the A, it's further from the intersection, and B, it's a 4-lane road there. We don't have that. None of these options are available at Take 5. My other concern is about an increase in motor vehicle accidents at that intersection, with people suddenly stopping abruptly to turn in, or suddenly stopping when the sign is up and can't turn in. So I think it leads to a dangerous situation from an accident standpoint. I also am afraid that people are going to do one of three things if they can't get into the car wash because it's closed up because it's too busy. Number one, they're going to pull into my parking lot and park there, taking parking spaces away from my patient base. It happens at Walgreens. When Zappies overflows, the people wait in the Walgreens parking lot until it opens up. On my property, I don't have that many parking spaces for staff and for patients. So if I have people coming in and taking parking places, what am I supposed to do? I dealt with this when Avenue Grill, Hobnobbers, and Maximilians was in full swing, where all the overflow traffic used to park in my parking lot, to the point that I had to chain my lot up, which looked stupid because there were cars in there all night long running back and forth to all the businesses. I'm concerned that I'm going to have cars in my lot again. I'm also concerned about the second and third option that people are going to do to get into that car wash. They're either going to go up to Garfield, turn around, come back out on Garfield, and now try to come southbound and hope that it starts to ease up as they sit in the southbound traffic on Hopkins Road. Or more horribly, they're going to drive up to Garfield, go through the parking lot, drive through the school lot to come all the way down to Memorial, to come out at the Memorial exit, and then try to cross 2 lanes of traffic, which is backed up in both directions, to get across, to get into directly across into the car wash. I think, A, it puts students in danger because these cars are going to now be driving through the parking lots at the schools. And it also leads to additional safety issues because now we're having non-parents on the school property to try to get around to the car wash. My last concern is about the neighbors. That road's a nightmare, always has been. The intersection to turn is too short, always has been. But you put in bike paths on either side. And those people have no way to get in and out of that property, especially if they want to turn south on Manor Avenue, or turn south on Hopkins and to turn onto Manor Avenue. The other thing that happens is people that come off of Manor Avenue, and I've seen this time and time again, they go up Hopkins, either turn into Memorial, turn into Garfield, if they're coming like down Hopkins, and snake through the front of the school and try to exit out on the other side of the school by the football field. So I think the solutions that you have in here, I have concerns about the staff report. I don't think having a right turn only turn on Manor Avenue is adequate. You have that at Walmart, you have that at Target, you have that at Lowe's. How well does that work out? People turn the wrong direction there all the time. And on Manor Avenue, they're going to be turning across 2 lanes of traffic on a busy street. The most dangerous street in Northeast Ohio, by the way. My other concern is you have in your report, due to the potential traffic impacts onto the public right-of-way, the administration recommends that the Planning Commission reserves continuing jurisdiction over the drive-through lanes once opened so that the site circulation can be reevaluated should the need arise. Well, the need's going to arise, and my question is, what else can you do because the entire property is taking up with the parking already? The only place to spill over is out onto the street. There is no other solution that can be reached on this property. And then lastly, they also don't have adequate parking for the employees that are going to be there. That's an issue I dealt with when I moved into my property because the city took some of my parking spaces in the eminent domain and then told me I didn't have adequate parking. We were able to rectify that situation because it was the city that had taken the property away, but there's not adequate parking for the employees there. These are all concerns I have. I'm concerned about my patients getting in and out of there. I'm concerned about accidents on those corners. I'm concerned about the traffic from the schools, the traffic from the working population, and the safety for the students and the difficulty of the neighbors getting in and out of those properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Oh, I submitted a video of the traffic patterns there as several times during the day. I don't think we need to go that, but they're there available for you to look at if you want to look at them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Resnick?
Okay.
Hey, hold on a second. Let's stay in order here.
Look, my name is Mike Resnick. I live at 7125 Hopkins Road. I live right next to Jose. I can tell you, even when there's cars constantly like throughout the day, they'll get backed up in front of my driveway. I can't go left, and it's not just when schools going in or letting out. There's also like on the weekends, there's more cars out on the road. It always happens on the weekend. Like they will be in front of my driveway. It's worse when there's things going on at the school. I believe there's actually a church that meets there on the weekend also. So there's added traffic at that point too. And it's just, this is just going to add even more traffic and make it that much more difficult to deal with. Sorry, my first time talking here.
Fine, take your time.
I was also, another concern I have is, is the drainage going to be good enough in the area to handle all the water? Because I'm sure it's going to be water all day long. And my other concern I have, I've been a mechanic for 24 years. Okay, cars, you're going to have cars coming through there. There's going to be cars that are going to be leaking oil, coolant, fuel, what have you. It's all going to get washed down the drains. What's the environmental impact of that? Are they going to do an environmental impact study, see how that's going to affect things? I mean, it's just, and I definitely don't want something like that close to my house. It's going to, there's going to be added noise, and I'm just not interested in that. I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
David Rossetti?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is David Rossetti. I live at 7115 Hopkins Road. So I'm down the road a little further than the folks who have spoken earlier. And I am going to try, apparently Dr. Estat saw some of my talking points, so I'm going to spare everybody repeating most of them except for one. I've lived in my house, I am the fifth house north of this property on Hopkins Road, and I've been there for over 35 years. So I've seen a lot of development in this corner, and I understand change happens. The property in question that's on Manor Avenue has been many things over those 36 years, but primarily food service, restaurants, bars, that stuff. But the key thing was all had access and egress from Manor Avenue, not from Hopkins Road. The Lennon building that is there is an office building. It's the only property that has the access to and from Hopkins. To correct the gentleman who spoke earlier about the number of school buses, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, or approximately 3:30 when Memorial was letting out, the traffic was back northbound, or going southbound up the north of Hopkins Road beyond the Manor School Bus Garage. There was one bus in that traffic jam. It was all cars. Times have changed. Parents pick up and drop off. Children do not ride buses. So to say that that's bus traffic once or twice a day, it is buses, but it's mainly cars, especially during times of the preschool drop-off and pickup at Garfield Elementary. Again, that backs up beyond the Manor school bus garage. My main concerns with this proposed development is three concerns. Traffic, as we've talked ad nauseum here, but I'd like to put my 2 cents in on that. I live approximately 200 feet north of the proposed entrance to this property. According to the plans, it looks like that the first house north of the property is going to be demolished for this development. That puts me 150 feet north of this property. It is difficult to get in and out of our driveways, especially during school. It's something we've learned to deal with over the years. But as the one gentleman said, things happen at Memorial over the weekends. There are sporting events. There are evening concerts during the school years. There is church on Sunday, which does contribute to the traffic on Hopkins Road. The issue in the staff report regarding the use of the signage and stopping entrance to the when traffic backs up to the apron, as Dr. Eastat said, we've seen how it works at the other car wash up the street on Manor Avenue where there's 2 lanes of traffic. We have 1. So that is a major concern for me and my family. The second concern I have is noise. Currently, this plan shows that the vacuum cleaners will be installed adjacent to the northern property boundary, which puts them again 150 feet from my house. Not to mention the car wash equipment itself and the rooftop ventilation and air conditioning to keep the humidity out of the building. Third concern, light encroachment. There is no lighting plan that was submitted in the preliminary package. Years ago, when the Kia dealership changed their lighting, the light encroachment as far as my property, 5 houses north on Hopkins Road, became an issue. It started lighting up my yard and lighting up my house. This property is even closer. So without a lighting plan, I am concerned about light encroachment. That said, I urge the commission to reject this proposal, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now, that's all that's been handed in. Anybody else want to speak against this? This public hearing is closed. Will the applicant please come back up? No, I'm sorry, we're closed the public hearing. People spoke for and against. Now the applicant can say a few words as well.
Yeah, so just to address some of y'all's concerns, we have internal models that predict sales and car volumes, and the proposed, you can see here, the tunnel length, which faces south to Manor Road, is about 120 feet, and we can process about 120 cars per hour on this site. And we've predicted through our internal models that at our peak, which is between Friday, the hours of 4 and 6, and Saturday, that we'll be doing about 45 cars an hour, so less than half of what our tunnel and our 21 stacking can handle. And then during the week and on our off-peak hours, about 30 cars an hour. So, I think, I hear y'all's concerns about traffic, but, I think that those can be addressed in sort of our models that we have that can predict, some of the volumes that we're going to do here. We want to work with you guys. We want to work with the city and the citizens of Manor to try to make this happen. So we are open to working with all of you to try and grant some of your concerns and requests.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
I just wanted to say, Mr. Lund is a property owner, and he is an applicant, so he
You
can
want to
speak.
come
Yeah,
up and say a few words?
He is a property owner.
Folks, as I began this evening, I told you things definitely change. If you remember a few years ago, Myers wanted to put like a Circle K or a Speedway there, and the person I think that was most vociferous tonight was Dr. Estat. Dr. Estat was willing to sign on and let a Myers come in there with a gas station, and we didn't have any problem there, and then the city and the school system kind of nixed it and they went away. But it's whose bull is getting gored here. At one time, the doctor was willing to go along with the development of that corner. And now all of a sudden, it's just a terrible situation. It's a situation that we, the property owners, can't change. But we are zoned correctly. And when Mr. Traub was Community Development Director, he and I met frequently, and he was always asking me, can't you clean up the corner, get it nice, get something in there? Well, we've been working very hard for the last few years, and you see the direction we're going. We're going with the Myers, we're going with a car wash, you know, and I look at some of the car washes, and I don't see them as disturbing the neighborhood. You have Cardinal Car Wash down the road. The only one who gives a real problem is Zappy's, and that's because he's a $3 car wash. So they line up there. But again, if you could advise us as to how to proceed, we're willing to do it. It's not that we're trying to offend the city or offend the residents, but we're being deprived of the use of our property. If the city would like to buy it, or if the neighbors would like to buy it, we're more than willing to sell to them. But just to say you can't put anything there and nix it, Dr. Stat stated it very well. It's not going to get any better. You're going to have to put in turning lanes, or something else is going to happen there. Somebody can buy the corner and do what they want with it. But it's not going to change. And we're being deprived of the use of our property. This is the second time. Now, I notice some of the large landowners in the community, even though they get voted down, they seem to bring in attorneys and threaten to sue all the time. Well, we don't want to get involved in that, but it certainly seems to work. Thank you for letting me speak, Joan.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Just to clarify, there has been some comments made with regard to the recommended conditions that were outlined under the conditional use permit. I think it's important to note that under the analysis and recommendations section of the staff report, we have stated that the administration is concerned with the car wash as the use will not be in harmony with the adjoining properties and the traffic that will generate from the use. It also should be noted that the city engineer is requiring a traffic impact study be performed if it moves forward. So in general terms, this is a conditional new use, not a use permitted by right. And so that is why there are a series of questions that are outlined in the Chapter 1135 of the zoning code that you are to evaluate in terms of its impact. And so that's what we did, and that is why we put our recommendation against this as a high-volume user at an already congested intersection within a school zone area.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga.
I've been on the commission now about 7 years or something like that. And every time we try to resolve some of these parking or these access issues with special turning devices and lots of signs and what they call the port chop, which tries to get people to exit properties only in one direction. And, for instance, the administrative requirements we placed on Zappy's about shutting down the lane. All these things have been tried, and they don't work very well, I have to admit. People drive where they want to drive. They go where they want to go. You can't, it's when they don't live in a police state, so people aren't being stopped from doing these things, but it doesn't create a safe or positive environment. So I'm just speaking from past experiences, past projects, some that were alluded to, other ones. And I don't know what could be done here to make it safer than it is now. And I'm just speaking, I'm not looking for a response, I'm just making the observation that we have a condition in the city, a condition of traffic and activities and land use. And I I don't see how this can make our city better. And most of the decisions, if not all the decisions we make as a commission, should be to find the best solutions and make the city better. Solve problems if we have the opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Perkovic?
I think the administration's point of view, the key word was the high-volume user. I know this site has challenges, and I think that the key is just this. It's the high-volume use versus, let's call it an office tenant. I think those are really the two distinctions. So it's not that the site can't be developed. I think it's just this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Look and see. Motion to approve with the two conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
No.
Mr. Perkovich?
No.
Ms. Small?
No.
Mr. Tiedemann?
No.
Mr. Cook?
No.
Mr. Chairman, we would ask that the members of the board make findings about their decision here this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Jackie, you could just call them one at a time.
Mr. Varga?
My primary concern is safety. That relative to the existing condition, this is a less safe outcome than if it wasn't built. Also, I don't like it's almost, it's in conflict with the immediate residential use directly to the north.
Mr. Perkovich?
I'm in agreement with Mr. Vargas as well as just the impact that this is going to have on the neighbors to the north and the already congested corner. It's just not harmonious. So.
Ms. Small?
I'm also in agreement with my two former colleagues. I believe that this would adversely affect the neighboring properties, including the school, including the road, and be a concern for safety.
Mr. Tiedemann?
I'm going to have to agree with my colleagues. This will adversely affect the neighborhood, and I'm concerned for safety, especially with the kids.
Mr. Cook?
Well, I'm going to refer back to the code 1135.04. Number 2, it will adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood. So this area is in a school zone with both a middle school and a preschool building. Students are walking and riding their bikes before and after school and during practices, and the traffic in this area is already too busy. So with that, I'm going to refer back to the code, and that's my finding. Thank you. We don't have any old business. Under new business, we have an architectural review, reimage of a bank building, 9571 Manor Avenue. Is that applicant here? You're back. All right, listen. Tell us a little bit about the architecture.
So the intended use is to fill in an existing door with some windows. They're going to add a new main entrance there on the southwest corner. There'll be glass windows, and the facade is in these various elevations.
Thank you. Anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, if the applicant just clarify the color change again.
The south facade is going to be white. The brick there is a brownish, and then there's various glass windows all around the building.
Thank you.
Anything from the commission members?
Yes, I have a comment.
Mr. Varga?
Rooftop equipment. Don't want to see it.
Okay.
You're using, I'm assuming because you're re-engineering this building, that you'll have new mechanical equipment
Yes.
for the new use.
Yes.
I do see on the east, and the position of this building is such that you see it from all directions. So I'd like to make sure that all the mechanical equipment is blocked from view.
Okay.
You can screen it, you can hide it behind, exterior walls, whatever, but we don't want to see the equipment from any of the areas, including the adjacent properties.
Okay.
Okay?
Anything else from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions.
Second.
Well, do we want a fifth condition
Sorry.
here? Yeah.
Do you want a condition of the
Oh, yeah.
screening of the rooftop?
The fifth condition would be that all rooftop or ground-mounted equipment needs to be screened from view, and because of the location, from all directions.
Okay.
With that, I'll entertain a motion. Oh,
Motion,
sorry.
motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a final site plan of a car dealership, Genesis of Manor, at 8494 Tyler Boulevard. I see that applicant is here. Please give us your name and address and tell us about the final site plan.
Kurt Hansen, 8490 Tyler Boulevard, Classic Auto Group. Here as I present the final site plan and also the exterior of the building. The site plan is shown, it's the exact same plan that was shown during the prelim. Nothing has changed at all. The entrance into the sites still stay the same. We're still removing the original entrance on the east side of the Recon Center. And then in terms of the overall architecture of the building, it's basically exactly the way it had been submitted previously.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from administration on the site plan?
We just have 7 conditions noted.
Anything from the commission members? That'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 7 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We have an architectural review of a car dealership, Genesis of Manor, at 8494 Tyler Boulevard. Tell us a little bit about the building now.
Like I said, as presented before on the building, the exterior of the building on the front of the showroom is aluminum composite metal panel, a gray color. The metal panel that will be around on the service drive will be black in color. The whole front portion of the showroom and down the sides is all glass, you see there. And then around the rear of the building will be a black ephes color that will be similar to the black metal panel.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from administration?
We have 2 conditions noted.
Anything from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 2 conditions.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a preliminary site plan of a car dealership at 8505 Manor Avenue. Will you tell us a little bit about the site plan now, please?
Yes, good evening, Denver Brooker again. I'll just point out a few things. We'll start with the building. What you see in front of you, the red dashed outline represents the footprint of the existing building. Where you see 3 kind of white lines crossing a piece of it, right there. Those are existing roof monitors, and that rectangular section of the building will be retained. The rest of it will be significantly, most of it demolished, a little bit of it renovated. Everything else is an addition. When the redevelopment is complete, it will look like a brand new, completely cohesive building. Go back to the site just briefly. A few things I'd like to point out, and in response to some of the staff comments. They're showing 3 curb cuts along Mentor Avenue. They're slightly, at least in this rendition, slightly relocated from existing locations. It is our intention that the middle one, the main one, which aligns with a set of traffic signals, will align with the existing traffic signals. We won't adjust it in such a way that any of the signaling has to be relocated or crosswalks changed. At the perimeter of the site, north, east, and west, we are expanding the landscape buffer area from the existing. It's hard to read in this drawing, but it varies in terms of the level of expansion. The staff comments require a kind of code-compliant 50-foot buffer to the residential properties to the east and to the north. We will be seeking a conditional permit for relaxation on that 50 feet. It's our intention to assess the quality of the landscape material at the perimeters, retain as much as possible, remove anything that's deficient, and then add to it. We would like your I know we're not seeking that permit this evening, but I'd like some commentary from you on that in terms of just the approach, so that when we come back, we know what you would accept. And in the middle there you see a couple of landscape islands that kind of split the north and south parts. We're going to be developing the site in such a way that we can retain that existing landscape area on the site and possibly those trees pending the condition. We can go to the building. The building reflects two kind of key brands in terms of Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep. Jeep has taken on a kind of individual brand within the company, which is why you see two kind of distinct approaches to how the building is branded. That is part of their national brand standards. It's relatively new in terms of how they're setting Jeep apart from Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram. So that's why there's the two parts of it, just in response to the staff comments. This entire facade, as presented, is consistent with the national brand standards for a building of this size. They have slightly different brand standards in terms of materiality that allow depending on the size or location. With this facility, they're showing all composite aluminum panels for all aspects of the front of the facade. Looking for a little feedback from you. We understand that this is in the village core and that there are some design guidelines around the use of masonry and wood, and we're balancing brand standard and those kind of very specific local requirements. We've spoke to Ken Ganley, the owner of this facility, about this. He's aware of the staff comments. His desire is to be able to build a completely brand compliant new building here. And I think, I'm happy to answer any questions, don't want to belabor.
Okay.
There's lots of detail.
Thank you. Kathy, will you touch a little bit on the permit for the side setback as well as a little bit on the old village and some of the design guidelines that you're facing? Well, I understand that you have a national branding, and we wrestle with this all the time, but unfortunately for you, you happen to be in a stretch of Route 20 that's a little bit different than the rest of the city. So we're going to have to try to balance that, and Kathy could touch on that a little bit.
Well, with regard to the comment that was made on the buffer areas, I think that we obviously all recognize that this is an existing site. It had met the buffer requirements previously, and assuming that the pavement isn't going to change on the perimeter, is that correct? The pavement that's already there?
It'll be reduced. We are expanding the buffer some.
Okay,
as
so
part of the
that's a
site
good
plan.
thing. So if anything, because obviously the concern is particularly on the east side where it's much narrower. I think that, where you can, again, if there is any existing landscaping plantings that are still viable and healthy and they can be kept and preserved, then we certainly always like to encourage that. However, I think just based on a couple of views that we saw, it looked like, some of the landscaping, especially on the north side, was pretty tired. And it looks like it could use a good facelift. So I think, that would be the recommendation is to see that the buffer reductions are minimized as much as possible, recognizing you're dealing with an existing site that did adhere to this buffer requirement in some form over the years. So I think we can work with you on what's there as long as we have a better idea of the inventory that's on site and what you want to do to supplement it. With regard to the design guidelines, I'd certainly welcome comments from the commission. I guess I would just note, and I did have a conversation with the architect regarding this. We certainly have a couple of buildings that were recently approved in the village core. Uptown Manor is a nice example. Enterprise Rental is another nice example. Enterprise Rental obviously is a national brand. It's not, it doesn't necessarily mimic some of the older style, but it did make an effort to add some appropriate articulation and brick to the building, and I think that's what we're looking for with regard to the Uptown Manor project. A lot of glass was utilized. I think that's obviously a common material that you're going to see with the dealership, a lot of glass. However, there was also some brick. I mean, so in a way that can be incorporated, and I think we noted that. And I know the architect touched on this, but there just seems to be no cohesiveness with the Ganley and the Jeep right now. And I know they have their own branding, but if there's a way to bring those two together, even from a roofline standpoint, I think that's what we're looking for.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members? I know we're just talking about the site plan, but we're kind of giving you some ideas on the architecture.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Well,
Mr. Varga,
Mr. Yeah. I just want to discuss this east setback landscape buffer. The one that's shown here is the same or larger than the one that's there now?
He just indicated that they're reducing the pavement, so it'll be larger.
On the east side?
On east, west, and north, we
Okay,
are
so that-
reducing the amount of pavement.
So the buffer is larger than it was?
Larger than it is now, but not 50 feet.
I understand. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that,
Yes.
that applied all the way around. Just to talk about the building, we just had an earlier dealership with their corporate image. I wish I could sell these panels because everybody's putting them all over their buildings. But they're not in an old village area, so it's much easier for us to say, okay, you want to make it look that way, and we don't want to see the rooftop equipment. It's a broken record with me, but that we don't really have an issue with that. But even the building that's there now, that you're going to tear down most of, was a Honda dealership, and it made an effort, even back in the day, if I'm not wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Was Honda the first? Did Honda build that?
That was actually Cadillac.
I don't even remember.
Pontiac?
Pontiac, really? Well, whatever dealership built the original showroom and stuff, they made an effort to make it look a little bit residential, not an ocean of metal panels, though that may not have been the scheme in those days anyhow. But it did seem to fit in more to the concept of the old village design standards. So I don't want to even think about telling you what to do, but I don't think we can accept a rubber stamped corporate image in this area based on the requirements of the old village. If you built it someplace else, I'm not telling you to do that, but if you built it someplace else where these restrictions didn't apply, you could probably put up whatever you wanted relatively within the scheme of things. But I think folks don't want to look at an ocean of metal panels facing, the old village environment. We're trying to develop this too. I mean, we're working from an environment, from a city that pre-exists these design standards, and we're trying to incrementally create them to create an outcome that the people in the city of Manor want to see. So I'm not telling you how to do it, but I'm not sure this would work for me.
Thank you. For me, I've heard stories from more than one person that when the Dunn family, they had this stone block wall along Manor Avenue, and kids would climb on this wall and walk to and from school, and I've heard this from more than one person. So for me, if you could do something along that right of way that gives the essence of an old Manor, that might be enough for me, because I understand your branding issues. Something that brings back the essence of Old Village of when it was the Dunn family. Some sort of pillars, some sort of block work that gives it that look of that Old Village feel. I mean, that's just a suggestion for me. So anything else from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Tiedemann.
I'm going to be upfront and say this doesn't match the neighborhood. And I understand corporate branding, I get it. But this is Old Village, and if you look around, you've got a lot of red brick across the street, down the street, the other direction, wrought iron fences with the brick pillars in between, and then this shows up, and it would stick out like a sore thumb. It just, to me, it does not match that neighborhood. So, you know, the goal was, when I hear the term Old Village, I don't picture a lot of metal panels, and I picture that red brick. The old city hall on the other side of Center Street that was redone, they took the white paint off and made it back to what it used to be. It's a nice giant red brick building. The school, it's all brick. So there's got to be some sort of compromise here that we can incorporate something to make this fit the neighborhood.
The feedback is very helpful, and I guess to your point, you mentioned red brick. Is that, I mean, I understand that in the context that most of the buildings that are brick are red brick, but would the addition of brick in a different color, maybe something that is more in the color of the brand for the building, but it does add the texture and quality of a more traditional building material, is that something that you would be open to?
Yes, I would take a look at anything, and I say red brick because I literally walked up and down Manor Avenue a couple days ago and just looked around, and I'm like, there's even Drug Mart across the street. That building is red brick. It's just, there's a lot of brick up there, so.
And then, again, I'm not in a position to be able to say what Stellantis will approve or what Ken Ganley will approve, but I need to have enough of an understanding of direction. We are on a fairly tight time frame. It's our intention to complete drawings by the end of August, which means I have to get final site plan approval, and from you, get my permit and start construction this fall. So the direction is super helpful. So my last question related to this topic is, hypothetically, looking at the main front elevation, to the left you see the more silver panels where the Chrysler side of the building is. If that were to remain, and then immediately right of it, that first transition right there, if that were brick, and then skip to the right of Jeep, and then that whole right wing, kind of the service entries, is brick, and it wraps around the corner. And then if we go to the next page, bottom elevation, right side, that's the return elevation of, go over to the right just a little bit with your, to the right, there you go, right there. The metal panel returns the corner just a little bit, but then the rest of that is currently specified as EFS. What if the return was brick? And what I'm getting at is that if you think about Chrysler and Jeep as these showrooms that are branded, and the space between the showrooms and that are bookended are brick, then it feels kind of like a brick building with two big showrooms that have been added to it. Is that something that feels good to you?
Chairman?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ms. Small?
I just want to make a comment as someone who lives in the Old Manor Village and who bought a house there specifically because of the, lack of a better word, vibe that that neighborhood has. I think that I speak for me and my neighbors in the fact that we're looking for something not as aggressive, something that fits that old, neighborhood vibe. Where you're not going around. You see the drug mart sign, but the building is not bright. It's not aggressive. You see the sign, you know that it's there, but it's not in your face all the time. And I think that that's really the essence of that neighborhood, is that we have commercial services and they exist, but they're not bright and in your face. And I don't know if that's something you can work with the brand, but that's something that would really reflect the neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman?
Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Varga?
I think you're going in the right direction. I would also throw out ideas like establishing possibly a stone or masonry base to the panel system as another opportunity to introduce some additional material to this showroom environment, but you would still have all your panels, your glass, but maybe some of this masonry that acts as a divider, or the way you portrayed it, maybe there's also some kind of water table or base masonry or stone, maybe stone, that the panel system can sit on, in a sense, or have a place.
Okay.
That might soften the way it right now it's just glass right to the ground. Now, I understand they want people to see inside, but you could also possibly soften the way this hits the ground as a possibility. And I was just trying to look, all these side and back elevations, is that just painted masonry?
As it's depicted, and this is the design intent document elevations from the national architect, and it's our job to engineer this and figure out what it really is.
Okay, well, some of what it really is, you do see some of this building as you approach it from, at least
Right.
from the west. If you start to look at it from an angle, and the showrooms are these metal panels, but you can see that there's masonry bookending these metal panel systems, and maybe the wall going back to the north, that you can see that it looks like the metal panels are not the most dominant character. It's a tough nut. I understand exactly where you're at. I just, in my own interest, or I just state, were the owners or the developers of this aware of the design requirements when they purchased the property, or are they, that's like...
I don't know the answer to that.
Because this affects their development, and they should know what the constraints are to the property before they even propose a project. That would be a recommendation of mine, to be aware of what's required, so you don't have to go through this struggle.
I appreciate the feedback. It's very helpful.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, one last comment, and this goes back just to the village core that we've kind of been talking about. I think that, and Kathy from the administration made mention of the Uptown Manor project, which to the east, that was a big building itself, and it was not only big horizontally east-west, but it was also tall, and it was right up at the street. But I think the success of that, and why we ultimately approved that, was that it kind of had each, let's call it area, was broken down in massing, and it had a lot of steps in it. It integrated architecture and planter boxes, greenery, and so the difference in the levels and things kind of brought the effect of this, maybe it was a small warehouse at one time that grew and was added on to and so forth. And I think that in general, even though it was as big or maybe just as long as this, it had some sort of a cohesiveness to it. And I think from my standpoint, the Ganley metal panels we've touched on already is probably the weak spot to me. And with the two brands, the national brands, that's a detriment. But I think the Uptown Manor project was kind of a success by taking a big building and kind of breaking it down. So I think there is some hope there, but it was mainly a brick and a lot of glass. So those two materials, and it was just broken down. The massing kind of helped as it stepped back and stepped up. So if you can take a look at that project, maybe take some cues from that, because that was a pretty good success in the same district.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Well, tonight, we're only voting on the site plan, preliminary site plan. And my predecessor used to say, you've got your marching orders on your architecture. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 8 conditions.
I'll second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you very much
you.
for your feedback.
Number 11, a preliminary site plan of a car wash, Take 5 at 9047 Manor Avenue and 7139 Hopkins Road. I'll entertain a motion to remove this from the agenda.
Motion to remove.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We have final site plan of a storage facility, Life Storage, at 8679 through 8693 East Avenue. I see that applicant is here. Please give us your name and address and tell us a little bit about the site plan.
Good evening. Dustin Keeney with Polaris Engineering and Surveying, 34600 Chardon Road, Willoughby Hills, 44094, here on behalf of Life Storage and Sovereign Acquisition. The proposal there, it's an existing storage facility. The proposal is to demolish one of the existing buildings on site and replace it with a 3-story climate-controlled facility that would be would have a small office in the southwest front corner, a few parking spaces out front for for folks to come in and handle their rental of the units and to stop at the office. And then on the west side is a canopy with a main door, which is where primarily most of the storage stuff would be moved in and out of the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration on the site plan?
No, other than the conditions noted.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members? With that, Mr. Varga.
Well, this was just a question. It's not really, there's that much demand for these spaces?
Apparent, it's kind of crazy.
I know, it's.
I guess as a society, we must have way too much stuff.
Right, because they just built one of these over in Painesville Township, and I don't know how many floors, it looks much bigger than this, and it's huge, and I'm just amazed. So you have no more insight into this other than we all have too much stuff.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing with the Life Storage folks is what they're doing is a lot of the existing facilities, they're basically replacing the old-fashioned garage, you open the garage door style with the climate control. And that's what we're seeing a lot of is that they're just updating to that newer style of storage.
Thank you. Is there anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 7 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We have an architectural review of a storage facility, Life Storage, at 8679 through 8693 East Avenue. Tell us a little bit about the architecture.
Okay, so I do have some samples here. We were unable to get the sample of the drive it. We tried like crazy. It just wasn't available. But the color of the materials you see is there will be a split face block that's like a tannish color. The metal siding is called a saddle tan. I have a sample here. Of the bluish color that would be, the cobalt blue that would be the trim along the top. And then also here's the burnished slate, which is kind of the trim along the easterly elevation. There we are including along the front, there will be a landscape planter that would have some landscaping along the front between the asphalt and the building. And then also there's going to be some landscaping in the front of the facility, some mounding and some landscape planting or to, I guess, around the parking area.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
I just wanted to acknowledge this was an update to what you had received in your packets. This was in response to the conditions that were recommended, and namely the knee wall that goes across that first row of windows has been added. I believe that's the key change, right?
Right. Along the front, the recommendation was to extend the brick to the top of the windows instead of just having a knee wall, so that was extended up, correct?
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Perkovich.
I was going to make a comment related to that stipulation number 3, which was kind of carrying that knee wall up. I see on that elevation that we see on the screen, we've got a lot of that yellow that I'm assuming that's the ephes material. Is there a way to maybe even take the color change? It could be the same material, if you will, but up to that second line of windows. And again, it kind of goes back to the last submission we were just talking about, where we start to get a number of materials and maybe color changes, and they're all harmonious, but yet maybe it downplays that yellow so much. And I realize that's probably part of their national branding strategy, but we're still going to see, the 1/3 top being that color as well as the side. So I think the branding is still sort of there. It would just be maybe making that building read a little bit more masonry, even if that ephes is a darker color. From your eye point of view, you really almost have kind of a really nice mix of let's call it the dark color, which seems to be the base structure. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that, but that to me, I think, really kind of downplays that ephes material on that front elevation.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Park.
I think when you talk about ephes, it looks like this nice, smooth, homogeneous surface, and there's going to be all these construction lines through it. I'm assuming you'll have horizontal lines at the top and bottoms of the windows, vertical lines at the ends of the windows. That will have a tendency to break that up a little bit. That ephes is in the same plane as the brick or the block on both sides?
Yes.
Okay, and so I notice that there's it's not really a fascia, it's just the metal coping at the top is thicker over the ephes.
Correct, yes.
I don't know, it might be interesting if that was, if you drop the top of the ephes down and brought the blue down with it possibly. So that you don't, to kind of break that horizontal line into 3 distinct. I mean, I like the suggestion the city made and that you did by taking the brick across the bottom. Maybe doing something to lessen the amount of ephes up on top. Is that really the color of the ephes? I mean, I understand. I know when you get these things. I mean, it looks much whiter here. It looks more yellow on the page,
right?
And yet it may not be either of those.
Right,
colors.
and it's tough because we didn't have a sample, but they sent me a splotch that was a sample and it looks definitely
much more tan,
much more tan and
less
not as yellow,
yeah.
right?
So it may be okay. I mean, that's probably not as quite as severe. You know, I mean, you've done a lot with what you can do with this building.
Right.
Maybe toning down that yellow. If that's maybe that'll be less.
Okay. We'll still try to track a sample down and try to get it to Kathy and Larry to take a look at when we submit the final.
Maybe less yellow and blue and more scarlet and gray.
Right, I gotcha.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Just real quick, the sides of the building, there was a suggestion made that we don't do more than half of the building in the metal siding, so what are we doing with that?
Well, their preference would be to, you know, if the commission would grant some reprieve on that, but, you know, the east side of the building, you know, we've wrapped the masonry around the front, and, you know, and for the most part, you know, the only time you're gonna see that, you know, there's an existing building about 30 feet away from that, so you're not gonna see much of that unless you come into the site. And then the north side, you know, is adjacent to the train tracks, so, I mean, you know, we'd love to see if what's presented would be agreeable to the commission, and if it's not, I'll have to go back to the ownership, and we'll have to talk about.
Mr. Chairman? In response to that, and I agree with that comment, in the front, or the elevation just disappeared, but the new elevation that you had there, where you increased the height of that, the brick return to the window height, could I negotiate you raising around the other sides of the building, the brick up to the top of the doors?
That sounds reasonable to me.
And
Obviously,
kind of
there's higher ups than me that
Yeah,
need to
I
make.
understand, but I would suggest that might address the previous concern to more, that you'd have slightly more masonry where it does the most good, which is
Sure.
along the base of the building. And you would now align that masonry with the same as you did in the front.
Okay.
With the height of the other doors around, so that would make the height of the masonry around 7'4", something like that. Nice masonry dimension.
So Kathy, we'll see this again.
No.
No, not necessarily, unless you want to table the architectural to have it come back, which you could certainly do.
I think there's enough here that, you know, I don't want to wind up with 15 conditions on our.
Right, okay.
So,
Right, so.
anything else from the commission members?
Can I just ask, I know Mr. Perkovich had made that comment to raise that brick on the front even further. Was there a consensus that was preferred? I didn't
Mr.
hear
Chairman.
anything.
After seeing the color sample, I think that of the ephes, if it truly isn't as yellow as it seems in the Xerox that I have and what we saw on screen, it might not be the issue that I was thinking. But I want to also address that I think that the amount of masonry that is on there already is actually a kind of good mix, because what they've done really essentially is they've kind of loaded it up on the street view, and the elevation that you're going to see most, which is sort of that southwest. So I think they've, you know, in a sense, done a really good job. So adding that would be nice, but I think the color schemes really work well. So my first comment might not be the issue it was. So I think you could probably look at that when and if they give you a sample through administration. I think the colors seem to be blending a lot better than what we see on the screen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga.
I'm going to suggest that we table this. I don't want you to grab your chest or tell me you got to
Nope.
be done by Tuesday, but.
Nope, you're good.
But that you could come back and reflect some of these comments
Sure.
and some of these situations, and I think everyone would feel more comfortable with then approving
Sure.
something. And I do want to go along with that previous comment. You've done a lot with what could have been a really not that interesting building. You've
Okay.
done a lot with it. So a few other,
for
look
sure.
at those couple things and then maybe come back and we'll.
Great, okay.
Motion to table.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy,
Just-
anything? Oh, I'm sorry.
Kathy, real quick, just procedurally, just get you stuff prior to the next meeting, I guess, from a deadline
Yeah,
perspective.
because your deadline isn't tomorrow.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Okay,
It's
next
Monday.
time.
No, I'm just kidding.
Sounds good. Okay, cool.
You can work all night, that.
You never know. Thank you all.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Nothing else.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.